Let's go. And live from the basement of the studios in WCPT, I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I am joined with Devin Tingle.
Takes more planning than that, Mercado.
And Paul Chivari.
Yo.
And the only reason we are in the basement is because we aren't making over $700 million over the next 13 years like a certain player now going to the New York Mets, and that is Juan Soto. And you know that it is a big story when it is leading the show. Not the NFL, not anything in the NBA, not anything in the NHL, something that possibly changed the entire market. And once again, neither Chicago team was involved in this move. So joining us to break this down for a few minutes, just the impact of this move, is our friend from Heartland Signal. You can check him out there, of course, at Cubby's Crib. He is Rich Eberwein. Rich, thank you for joining the show. Buddy, this was a big move. I'm frustrated the Cubs weren't in it, but we knew it was going to come down to 2, 3, 4 teams. I'm interested to see how this plays out over the next 4 years, because I think this really comes down to if he can help them win a championship. If he does, for the Mets specifically, it doesn't matter what happens the next 20 years because they got that one, especially for their new owner. But the impact, do you think this is something that Mets fans should be excited about, not just for today, but for the next decade? Oh. Should they have some trepidation of 10 years from now, but enjoy the moment? Now, where are you on how Mets fans, baseball fans, should be handling this big signing?
Well, I mean, if you're a Mets fan, you should be over the moon. I mean, the fact that your owner has come in and basically turned the organization into, we will spend whatever we can, whatever Steve Cohen's money can buy, we're going to buy it with it. You know, like, aside from Shohei Ohtani, it's like you just paid for the best player on the market by far, and you didn't care how much, like Steve Cohen said, 700, whatever. He'll get it done. We don't want him to go back to the Yankees. We want him on our team. They just effectively replaced Pete Alonso with even more power, even more on-base ability. Their lineup is disgusting. If you're a Mets fan, you should be over the moon. If you're a fan of any other team, you should want your team to spend. Yeah, if I'm a Cubs fan, which I am, I want the Cubs to go after Pete Alonso. It's not going to happen, but you know, this is kind of the first big domino on the hitting side to fall. So I think this will kind of set the market. You know, as far as the Cubs are concerned, this has been on my mind, obviously, because I'm a Cubs fan. But like this could have big implications on Cody Bellinger's market. That trade market for outfielders is going to start heating up. Trade market for everybody's going to heat up this week. This was the first big thing of the winter meetings. So this is kind of the first domino to fall. I think you're going to start seeing everything start heating up and some more moves coming.
Our resident baseball expert, Paulie, I know this is something you've had your eye on from the beginning to see when this domino would drop. Your thoughts on how this all impacted it, and just moving forward that Juan Soto is now a New York Met?
Given how much Manny Machado and Bryce Harper were going to get paid a few years ago when they were 27 years old as free agents, Soto's 26, so a younger free agent, and arguably maybe even a better start to a career than some of those guys. So he was going to get the highest contract no matter what. What I didn't realize is what's kind of baked into this contract. So a lot of people were saying, why didn't the Dodgers take him? And I think he didn't want deferred money, and I think that's nowadays the only way the Dodgers can pull this off. What's also funny to me is hearing the Yankee hate coming from, Yankees fans like, it would have meant more if we said, the Mets aren't even as good as a team as the Yankees, when arguably the Mets had a better postseason than the Yankees because they got more wins off the eventual world champion, but that's another story. Check out this contract, though. Soto's going to be paid $305 million over the first 5 years of the contract. That includes a $75 million signing bonus and an annual salary of $46 million a year. If he doesn't opt out after 5 years, he'll get $460 million over the remaining 10 years. But if he does opt out, the Mets have the ability to prevent him from hitting the open market by increasing his annual salary to $50 million over the remaining 10 years, bringing the total value of the contract to $805 million.
Scott Boras, son of a gun, you did it again. He could not handle Shohei getting that deal last season. Paulie, I know you and I for years at this point, have had the philosophical conversation about contracts. Take that away for a second, big picture-wise, but keep it in mind how you feel about this. Is this good for baseball? Is this bad for baseball? Is this just a once-in-a-generation where there's going to be guys getting paid, obviously, but Juan Soto was one of one? What do you think about the deal in general?
I mean, he's worth that. It's obviously it's an overvalue, of course, whenever, because that's when there's no cap on the market. There's always going to be larger contracts. It's like they were talking about in the Sports Illustrated article that I just referenced, Lionel Messi's contract with Barcelona, and it was like slightly less than that, but over 4 years. So think about the average annual difference is way in favor of Messi. So at least, Soto's is a little bit more balanced when it's year by year and with increasing values and everything. Who knows, in 15 years, maybe $40 million won't sound like a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like, go back in time and talk about A-Rod's contract when he signed with Texas. $20 million is something to sneeze at nowadays, which is crazy. So yeah, I think if you're building a team, Soto's a good guy to build around. But me, it's obviously you need studs, to get far in baseball. But if you have a team of all-stars like the Dodgers, they're 1-for-1 with that with Ohtani. Think of how many years the Dodgers had stud lineups and couldn't even get to the World Series, couldn't win the World Series. So you still have to have depth. You still have to team around it. I personally believe that you can build a quality team of guys on the cheap. But look at the Baltimore Orioles. They're a team of quality guys that are on the cheap on their first contracts, and they haven't won anything yet. So yeah, it's a huge deal. I'm thrilled that the Mets are doing it. I think that creates a new powerhouse in the National League. But at the same time, the downside is is it only going to be the large market big teams that are competing from here on out? So on one hand, I like it. On the other hand, I don't. But I kind of don't want to see a salary cap in Major League Baseball. I kind of want teams to make these mistakes. So good on the Mets. Good luck to them.
And that's going to be in the forefront because we were all talking about, Rich and I were talking about off air, that CBA is coming up very quickly. So that's all going to be in negotiations. And also to your point about spending money, when it's certain organizations that haven't won or are desperate to win, you will pay anything. You will sell your soul to the devil. So to Paul's point, this may blow up in their face, or they might finally get the one that they've always wanted, right? The one that they wanted since the 80s. So this is something that they near and dear to the heart. I don't know if any of you guys saw this, though, really fast. Sports Center on their social media compared earnings. Did you guys see this stat? That what Juan Soto made, this over $715, comparative to LeBron and Tom Brady combined have made $760. Wow. So in one deal, Juan Soto has nearly caught up to LeBron and Tom Brady's entire net worth of contracts.
But at the same time, Juan Soto will play more games in a season than I think those guys will play
so it makes
over
the value,
a decade.
Yeah,
so yeah.
Championships matter now, though.
Oh,
that's where now
absolutely.
this
And I don't want to
matter.
take anything away from
Just
Brady.
going to say, how many
that.
rings has Soto got?
He's got two.
One.
No, the one.
Two,
yeah,
one. Yeah, the
one,
one with
and
the
he's been
Washington.
to two World
I
Series.
forget about Washington all the time.
Before I throw it to Dev, though, I mean, Rich, really fast, anything you want to break down from what Paulie had to say?
Yeah, I think part of the reason that this contract got so high was there was a bidding war. A lot of the top teams were in on this guy, so that kind of drove the price up. And I think Steve Cohen was not going to balk. He was going to say whatever it takes, get it done. And the second one is Juan Soto's age. I mean, he's going into his age 26 season, so I think that kind of drove the years up too, which sweetened the deal. 15 years. That's through his age 41 season. We've seen guys sign through their age 40 season before when they're already on the wrong side of 30 years old. So that kind of played into it, I think, too. He's already got 6 seasons under his belt of like MVP caliber play. So it's definitely a worthy investment. There will come a time if, he doesn't opt out or he stays with the Mets for the full, ride of this contract. There inevitably will come a time where they are like, man, we can't wait to get this off the books, because it happens to almost every single player who signs a contract like this. But that being said, I think there is probably at least 10 years where you're like, yeah, I'm pretty glad. If you're a Mets guy, you're pretty glad they signed this deal.
Dev, so you've been able to hear Paulie breaking down. Obviously, Rich is breaking it down for us. You can check out Rich, obviously, all over heartlandsignal.com and Cubby's Crib. Dev, obviously, as a White Sox fan, you knew this was never going to be in the pipeline, but your thoughts about everything that has come down with Juan Soto and the future of these big contracts and future of baseball, how it looks next season.
Well, Mercado, you might be surprised. Jerry Reinsdorf did offer Juan Soto a 2-year deal
for 2 Snickers bars and a Diet Coke.
Attaboy.
Unfortunately, Paul Chivari is the only one in this room that would ever take that deal.
The signing bonus is already more than any White Sox contract in history.
But in true White Sox fashion, didn't they hire like Juan Soto's like 8th grade cafeteria lady and like
second cousin, and former batting coach should now be the manager.
His old high school bully, tough him up a little bit. But I'm not as optimistic as everyone else in this room here. So let's just take a look back to 2021, 22. The Mets offered gigantic contracts to Scherzer and Verlander. What team are they both playing for now? That team was garbage that year. They tanked miserably.
They went to the playoffs, didn't they?
The next year they did.
The next year, the year they signed those guys, they traded them at the trade deadline.
Scherzer pitched in a Mets jersey in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because Verlander won a World Series.
Yeah, Verlander midway through the season went back to Houston.
Yeah.
Who else did they trade? Who did they trade that season? I thought it was Verlander and someone else.
Verlander.
I thought Scherzer was traded that year too. I could be wrong.
I don't remember.
Either way, it's a different situation. I mean, Scherzer and Verlander were, 38 or 39 years old when those contracts were signed?
Old pitcher versus young hitter.
Yeah, that was kind of like, Steve Cohen, like, introducing himself to the market, I think. Like, I'll pay whatever I want for whoever I think is going to win in championships. Didn't work out that way, obviously. But now, I mean, just look at their lineup now. You still got Lindor, who's coming off an MVP caliber season. Juan Soto heading into his prime.
Yeah, let's go back to, I believe, 2004, 2005. There was an outfielder. He wanted a 15-year deal. His name was Carlos Beltran, and what team gave him the 15-year deal?
The Mets?
The New York Mets.
I wouldn't compare Beltran. I love Beltran too.
But I'm just
pride
saying,
of Puerto Rico. But
it is very much a sort of like if you do not learn from history, you're doomed to repeat things.
That's where it's interesting.
If he had not been in a dugout banging trash cans, he would be Soto's manager.
Probably. But it is interesting. But all this is all interesting, right? Because if it were the Dodgers who signed him or the Yankees who signed him, we'd have more confidence. It'd be almost unanimous. The fact that it is the Mets is the weirdness of, well, it is the Mets who are the ones doing it.
But keep in mind, this is also Mets with the 5th richest owner in all of sports versus Mets with the owners that got screwed by the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. So there's a little bit of a financial difference, but you do raise a good point, Devin, that, they gave Beltran, look at Pujols' contract after he left St. Louis.
And neither of those men finished with the team that gave him that contract.
No, they didn't. And in Pujols' defense, he got good at the end, but it wasn't with the Angels. It was like randomly with St. Louis he got good, because even with the Dodgers, he kind of stunk a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's
they definitely have work to do, right? Like, this isn't the only move the Mets are going to make. Right. Their rotation, they just signed Clay Holmes to be a starter.
Oh, wow.
That's a bold move.
Yeah.
They brought in Frankie Montas, who has a bad track record.
Yeah.
Basically their only reliable starting pitcher on the roster, and I say reliable, and he was hurt most of last year, is Kodai Senga.
Yeah.
So they definitely could shore up the rotation more. Maybe one more bat, but the lineup is, I don't know, man. They're good.
But I didn't want to interrupt you, but you say that the lineup is great, and there was another team that had a really great lineup in 2021, but could have used one more great pitcher to help that deal, and that was the 2021 Chicago White Sox. They had a great lineup, but they had meh in the pitching. I mean, Dylan Cease had a second Cy Young year.
They led the league in strikeouts that year.
Well, hold up.
Well, Lynn was great that year. Giolito was great that year. Rodon was on fire that year.
But if we could add one more person other than, what was his name, Vince Velasquez?
Oh, yeah, they could always...
One other guy to make that lineup even great, because that was the year Keuchel went to doo-doo land.
Yeah.
And that was the thing Mercado kept saying, you need one more starting pitcher.
You had to go and rip open that scab of the 2021
Guys, we got way off topic. Mercado, take us out of this.
All right, we're done with this. No, you know what? At the end of the day, neither one of the two teams we root for on this show are going to do anything like this, so we can move on with our lives. But interesting, we'll see how regional sports contracts, how these streaming deals, how all this is going to impact deals moving forward, and that new CBA lingering. Is there going to be a work stoppage if we start talking about salary caps, if we start talking about floors, if we start talking about any type of weird deals? We know Major League Baseball's Player Association does not play any games. It's the strongest union in sports. So there's a lot of interesting ways this is going to go. But congratulations, Juan Soto. You almost are a billionaire by playing baseball. God bless this country sometimes. Rich, thank you so much. You have anything new you're working on for Cubby's Crib coming up?
We got a lot of stuff working. There's going to be moves that made this week, I would assume. So, I've been firing off some articles on Cubby's Crib. Go catch them.
And you're going to be super busy, I know, come January at Heartland Signal. So you guys got a lot of work. That our man over here is you talk about utility player, right? He does it all. He can do it all. So check out Rich Eberwein's work all over at Cubby's Crib and heartlandsignal.com. We have a jam-packed edition, guys. Paulie's all over the show. Devin's all over the show. We got Marver all over the show. And I'm somewhat throughout the show. You can follow us all over the universe. We're going to be on Blue Sky. We're leaving the dumpster fire that is Twitter. I know Paul's been talking about that, so we're working on it if you guys want to be interactive with the show. And, of course, on Twitter at The Sports Cubicle. Stay tuned. We got a lot more left here on WCPT 820 on The Sports Cubicle. He's Paul Chivari. He's Devin Tingle. I'm Mike Mercado.